So good morning to whomsoever might be watching this video. Um, no serious topics planned for this video. Not even sure if I'm gonna broadcast or upload it. But yeah, hope you all had a nice weekend. Yeah, I've got my hoodie on today as well as a cap. Seems like we're back in winter these last 2 days, somewhere between 2 and 5 degrees at the moment. But that's not going to stop me from taking my walk. Yeah, still quiet in the streets. Walking by a school now, or past the school. Some teachers arrived, waiting for the kids to come to school. So yeah, it's pretty chilly out today. Actually, I had a interesting poll that I ran the other day. A poll in regards to whether or not South Africans in general think vaccination should be made mandatory. And what do you know? About 70% of people think it's a no. I think it's about 40, give or take, people that participated in this poll that I made. So it's about 70% that said absolutely not, and 30%, give or take, that said yes. So there is people that actually feel that it should be done. I'm not one of them, for one. It should be by choice. Like our dear President Ramaphosa said. So yeah, but yeah, away from that topic and on to something else. I actually had a launch that I tried to cover this weekend with mixed success. It had some gigantic echo on the video, so actually I should have deleted it. In any case, it was the launch of a CRS-23 mission, Falcon launch from SpaceX. They launched supplies and medical equipment or experiments, I'm not sure, cultures of some kind, to the ISS. So that was pretty interesting. There's more launches coming up in the near future, but I'll only be able to broadcast launches going up to the end of September. I had to unfortunately cancel my internet connection due to unemployment and finances. So, so much for that. But in any case, I actually can't complain about much. There's a lot to be grateful for. Always is. Can complain, but it's not going to help anyone, so not going to do that. In terms of SpaceX, well, I did explain in a previous walk video that there's quite a few things happening in terms of Starship and developments. All they need to do now is push to get the Starbase up to standard so they can get approval from FAA before any launches can be approved. Yeah, I think I'm talking about 3 or 4 Ks today. Then once I get home, probably check out the internet or some web pages, see what available positions there are. Have to look around every now and then. Like I said previously, not the safest neighborhood anymore, like most in this country, unfortunately. I'm not panning around that much because I don't want to give away my location too much. You never know. Roads are quite quiet. Car every now and then. Just my hands are freezing. Oof. I watched quite a few videos over the weekend in terms of actually strangely enough, China. Did you know China, I think they haven't been involved in any real conflict in about 40 years, except if you include the skirmish they had with India on their border with India, somewhere in the Himalayas mountain range. Somewhere in that mountain range, they had a military conflict. They haven't actually won a military engagement in many years, and still people consider them to be a threat to world peace, or the United States specifically consider them to be a threat to world peace. Not really understanding why, because they might have, the thing is, successful militaries are only successful if they have actual soldiers that were involved in conflicts on a regular basis. You can have the most advanced military, but if they are not physically fit and have actual battle experience, they're not really a threat, which is the case with China. No real battlefield experience to speak of. They might have some technology to a certain degree, but they're no match for the United States in terms of military power as of yet. No country is actually at this stage. So yeah, I'm not sure if I would consider them a threat, but economically, yes, you might think that they're a threat because of their involvement in various countries, or many countries, in terms of business. And the thing is just, yeah, I don't think they're really that much of a threat. The United States have always kept themselves occupied by various battles and wars around the globe. I think to have a military that is battle ready, because the guys military that's got the most practice are the most, well, ready for battle. So I don't think these conflicts worldwide are actually meant to be won in many occasions. They are just to keep your soldiers and your military battle ready. So maybe the last 20 years, the fighting we've seen in Afghanistan was just to get rid of surplus supplies. Yeah, there you can see the board again behind me. Yes, next to the airport, once more. But I'm not convinced that these so-called wars that the United States were fighting the last couple of decades were meant to be won. They were meant to deplete military stores, so new ones can be bought and that whole industry could be kept going. But it's just my my opinion. So I think those conflicts were just meant to keep the cycle going and to keep that industry of creating arms on the go, to create revenue for those companies and for certain governments, obviously. But yeah, just a video I watched in that regard, and I kind of agree to a large, well, degree. But yeah, it was quite an interesting topic. I don't think military-wise China is a threat, but in other ways, yes, definitely. It's like if you are someone that's got the opinion that the United States are too powerful and you view them as your enemy or a threat, best option would be to wait patiently at this stage, because it seems that many of the Western countries are basically, to a degree, on a social level, imploding. It's like they don't really, I don't know if they are just blind to what's happening in their own countries or what, but it seems like they're just heading more in a direction where they're going to implode on themselves in terms of, I don't know what to describe it as, but it seems like they're just falling apart in a way, or in a sense, without even having a conflict. It's like they're being beaten at some invisible war. But in any case, that seems to be a thing, a trend over all the Western countries. Um, but yeah, I do believe there's something like a military-industrial complex, and they thrive on conflict. If there's no conflict, they don't make money. But there's other ways of making money as well lately. I'm not going to get into those ways of making money. Then I don't think this video will stay up for long. But in any case, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in the world currently. Even the World Economic Forum just a few years ago said that the United States will not be the most powerful country in the world anymore. And they also stated that you would own nothing by 2030 and you'd be happy. And if you don't believe me, you can check it up. You can look it up. Literally, the World Economic Forum stated that. I didn't believe it. I checked it out. I checked it out a year or two ago. Not sure if they still have that on their website and social media and so on, but they did, definitely. Like some other things that disappeared, maybe disappeared by now, I don't know. But in any case, it's kind of nice exploring what's happening in the world and possible reasons for it. I'm not saying any of this stuff I'm talking about is true. I know what's true to me, what I've checked up. You don't have to believe me, but in any case, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world at the moment. I think by 2030, you might look back and think, whoa, I can't believe all this stuff actually came true. Well, you can already say that if you go back 5 years, back in the past from now, 2015, you wouldn't believe where we are standing currently. So yeah, that's kind of interesting with all these things going on in the world. We just pick a direction here. So I don't know. Like I said, pretty interesting to see what's going on in the world currently. I'm actually walking in areas I'm not that familiar with, and it's not even that far away from where I stay. But yeah, so that was part of what I did over the weekend, except for trying to bring you that live stream. That didn't work out that nicely with the echo on the sound, unfortunately. So, but there's not much I can do about the live stream in terms of quality of sound until after. The program I'm using, some days it works nicely without issues. The next day there is some issues that needs resolving. Walking past the yard with a whole bunch of broken down cars and freaking chickens. Might be a rabbit or two there as well. There's some Uber drivers, and I see a big old airplane. Air France, it seems. Like I said, the airport's been quite quiet compared to, I would say, 3 years back. It used to drive me nuts with planes taking off. I couldn't sleep at night because of all the planes. But now, it's been quiet lately. And one thing that's strange is the fact that when it's cloudy and raining, it's much more noisy than airports. It's like the sound bounces off of the raindrops. Sounds 10 times louder than on other days. You hear every single plane taking off. When it's clear skies, you only hear them when they take off on certain runways. So if you're living next to an airport, you would know. Other thing that's bugging me about staying next to an airport, the air quality is not that good because of all the fumes, thanks to airplanes, obviously, and all the highways passing by the airport and so on. I think I'm going to pause it here for a second. Okay, let's continue. So I'm walking past the Premier Hotel, or Tambo Premier Hotel. Don't walk past here too often. I wonder how they're doing after all the lockdowns and restrictions and stuff. Not that many cars on their parking lot. hope they're doing alright. There's many people that lost their jobs working in hospitality and so on over the past few years. I can say now, believe it or not, it's already been a few years. 2 qualifies as a few. So yeah, unfortunately there's many people that lost their jobs in that industry. Yeah, so like I said, I watched a short video by someone and in regards to China and if they are really a threat. In terms of military, I definitely don't think they're that much of a threat. Doesn't matter how much technology and stuff they have. It's the thing about them not being, well, not having that much experience in terms of fighting wars and actually winning wars. Might have the manpower as well, but they do not have the Navy and the Air Force that, for example, the United States have. So I don't really view them as that much of a threat, except if they can neutralize. I'm talking hypothetically if there were a situation where the US and China were to be involved in a conflict, which is something I don't think will happen, or hope doesn't happen. But in any case, just some random shit running through my mind. But in any case, I don't think they're much of a threat at this stage in terms of manpower, yes. But it's no use having the manpower if your manpower does not have the experience it needs. And conflicts in history are always won by the side that's got the most experience. You can ask all the Roman emperors and all the generals over the past, well, centuries for that matter. But yeah, I think it would be a total mismatch at this stage. There's a few countries that's a bit more war ready, for example, even France and Russia. All these people that were involved in the conflicts for the past 20 years and so on. Yeah, like I said, it's a hypothetical conversation with myself, potentially, but in any case, I find it quite interesting that there is no real match for the United States in terms of military. So if you would want to win them in a conflict or beat them in a conflict, you would have to just sit on your ass and wait out whatever the freaking hell's happening now at this stage with the Western countries basically breaking themselves down, for that matter. It's a joke. I think all these countries that would normally oppose Western countries are just sitting and watching and actually potentially laughing. Yeah, it's a strange situation. If you think about it, 10 years back you wouldn't see it like that. But the way these countries' own people are actually behaving, the whole atmosphere of thinking that you're no good because of whichever reason, A, B, C, D, alphabet reasons. Let's refer to them as alphabet people. Might not go down to that good, but yeah, it's just interesting that it's working out the way it is currently. If you have powerful enemies with powerful militaries, you can't beat them with conventional warfare because you will get your ass handed to you if you've got no experience in the field. That's why some of these countries are constantly at war, in my opinion. So yeah, it's my take on the whole China potential threat situation. I don't think in terms of military they are a threat at this stage. For other reasons, yes, which I will not go into. Although I'm interested in all these theories and potential realities, I prefer not to be labelled. So I'm not gonna, well, I probably will be labelled by some, but I won't go into that too much. But it's good to have an eye out on every eventuality. Even though you might not have an influence on it, it's still interesting. Yeah, so it's called, I'm going to swap my hand, move it from the one side to the other. So yeah, no specific topics to these conversations I'm having, just whatever comes to mind. if you're still watching by this stage, you really have to be bored. Sorry, not boring. Sounded like my wife for a second there. You have to be really bored to still be watching this. But yeah, so it's just an interesting topic I came across this past weekend with the whole China not being afraid and being afraid at the same time. Economically, obviously they're afraid. But the other thing with China that most people don't realize, although China's got the largest population on earth, I think it's somewhere close to 1.5 billion. They won't be the largest population in the next 5 years or so. India will overtake them. India's it's 1.3 billion. And the reason for India overtaking them population-wise is that India does not have a one-child policy. And one thing that China does not take into consideration with the one-child policy, that's really not thinking for themselves. Because in 10, 20 years, majority of the population is going to be old people. So who's going to take care of these old people? If a mommy and a daddy have one child, and both mommy and daddy becomes old, who takes care of mommy and daddy once they become old? It means you're going to have a shortage of people to do hard physical labor, except if they got Tesla bots running around doing the labor. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what they're going to do in that regard, because they're going to sit with a huge, big problem in a few years in terms of manpower, at least. And they're not necessarily going to be many other Western countries or economic powers view China as the ultimate market after the USA. But if they continue along this line with the one-child policy, for example, they're going to have a big problem. People are not, or companies and other economies are not going to view them as a potential market, because they're going to have fewer and fewer people that partake in the financial market, or in the everyday life for that matter. Much smaller market, much less people that's going to buy less stuff, which is something that China actually specializes in, flooding the world with their products. Smart on the one hand, but you have no guarantee on the quality you're getting anymore, potentially. So I'm on my way back home currently. Once I get there, we'll do the usual stuff, go job hunting. Well, even though it's on the internet, most companies basically chase you away if you walk in and ask for a job. Unfortunately, that's the reality, which makes it harder and harder for people without the funds to finance an internet connection. So if you don't have an internet connection, you can't really hunt for a job. And if you physically walk around in the street, they basically chase you away. Like all these places with the boards, no job, geen werk. So you are forced to look for jobs on the internet, and you can't really do that if you don't have the funds to have an internet connection of some kind. Unfortunate situation in that regard, and it's scarce, you can trust me in that regard. And it's not necessarily that people want to step into a position and be a manager. Even the low-level positions is hard to come by, general work even. It's amazing to see how much freight in terms of goods goes up and down this highway next to the airport. I suppose it's good. It's a sign that the economy is still going, at least. The thing with the whole China situation in terms of military, I think they only have 1 or 2 aircraft carriers, and the backbone of the American military is the aircraft carriers. They've got close to 10 or 12, I think. Each one of them can deploy as many aircraft as most countries possess. Now that's what's obviously been giving the Americans the edge in terms of military might. Obviously, submarines back some punch as well. They've got many nuclear submarines, or nuclear capable and powered submarines, and that obviously gives them an edge. So at this stage, well, the Russians also have a large amount of nuclear submarines. So in terms of nuclear power, the Americans are not alone. But in terms of being able to deploy their troops anywhere, anywhere on Earth, they've got no equal in that regard. And imagine, for one, that we get a Starship variant that becomes, well, a military Starship variant, which is something I think is going to be a reality in 10 or 20 years. Being able to deploy 100 to 150 tons of military hardware or equipment or troops to anywhere on Earth within half an hour to 40 minutes. That's a complete game changer that can change the whole face of potential warfare and conflict. So yeah, it's one thing to keep in mind as well for the future. It might be distant future, but something to keep in mind. So there's nothing too serious on today's video, but in any case, let's just call it a diary. Kakpraat, vroeg in die oggend. So let me know what your thoughts are in regards to China. Where will they be in 10 years? Will they be ruling the world? Will they sit patiently and wait for the next 10 years or 20 years to go by for them to be able to become the next great superpower? Or will something else happen? I personally don't think there will be any military conflict between the USA and, for example, China, because what would the point be? Why would you spend billions and trillions of dollars on a war that is unnecessary? If they were to have a conflict, it would be wise for them to wait until it's much more cost effective to do so, or until your enemy just basically dissolves, which might actually happen the way I'm looking at it. And I'm not really pro one or the other. It's just I think the Western way of life might be coming, to a degree, coming to an end. I think the world's going to change quite a bit over the next few years. So yeah, just my thoughts. But drop a comment in the comment section. Give this video a like if you like this type of content, and I'll see you again next time.